the quiet blue of the Pacific, a chain of islands breathes in two languages. The sea whispers in Tagalog, but the cities reply in English. Manila wakes under soft clouds of morning traffic. Children walk to school, their voices a melody of accents, Western in sound, Asian in soul. Billboards, government seals, love letters and dreams written not in the tongue of ancestors, but in the global speech of opportunity. The world has many empires. Some conquer land, others conquer understanding. And in 2025, a quiet paradox surfaced. The Philippines, not Singapore, not India, not Hong Kong, stood first among Asia's English-speaking nations. This is not a story of perfection. It is a story of transformation, of resilience, of a nation that took the language of its colonizers and made it its own, of islands separated by water but united by words. From the call centers of Makati to the classrooms of Mindanao, from the streaming studios of Quezon City to the family dinner tables in Visayas, English flows like a second heartbeat. Because sometimes power speaks softly, and sometimes the quietest voices carry the furthest. History did not begin in English here. It began with wind, sea, and the 1,000 dialects of the islands: Visayan, Ilocano, Kapampangan, Bicolano, Waray, Hiligaynon, languages born from the mountains and the waves. Each island had its own tongue, each village its own songs. The Philippines was not one nation, but many, bound loosely by trade winds and shared waters. Then came the ships from Spain bearing crosses and crowns. In 1521, Ferdinand Magellan arrived, and with him came a new order. For 3 centuries, prayers were whispered in Castilian. Spanish became the language of the church, the courts, the elite. But Spanish never reached the common people. It remained the privilege of the ilustrados, the educated class. The farmers, the fishermen, the craftsmen, they kept their native tongues. When the Spanish-American War ended in 1898, the Philippines changed hands again. The stars and stripes rose over Manila, and with American rule came a new linguistic ambition. Unlike the Spanish, the Americans wanted everyone to speak their language. They saw education as the path to pacification, to progress, to Americanization. Classrooms changed. The blackboard became a battlefield of tongues. Children repeated new words: liberty, future, dream, democracy. They didn't just learn English, they inherited its rhythm, its way of ordering thought, its structure of expression. In 1901, the American Thomasites arrived, over 500 teachers, not soldiers, named after the ship that brought them, the USS Thomas. They came with books instead of bullets. They built schools from bamboo and paper. They taught in rural villages and urban centers alike. They taught not just language, but identity. They taught that English was the key to opportunity, to advancement, to joining the modern world. The colonial period left scars. It disrupted traditional education. It created hierarchies based on language proficiency. It made Filipinos feel that their own languages were inferior, backward, provincial. But it also left tools. English became the language of governance, of education, of upward mobility. In a nation of over 7,000 islands, speaking more than 180 languages, English became the common thread that could bind them together. When independence came in 1946, the Philippines faced a choice. Would they continue with English or return fully to their native languages? The decision was pragmatic. English had already taken root. It was the language of textbooks, of government documents, of international trade. Through war, independence, and the rise of Manila as a regional capital, English became the bridge between islands, between social classes, between nations, between poverty and promise. Before the internet, before the call centers, before the new century, the Philippines had already chosen its weapon: communication. Decades passed. The archipelago changed hands, not by colonizers, but by corporations. The new invaders wore headsets, not helmets. The 1990s brought globalization and telecommunications. Western companies discovered they could cut costs by outsourcing customer service. They needed workers who spoke clear English, who understood Western culture, who could handle complaints with patience and warmth. They found all of this in the Philippines. By the early 2000s, the world discovered something astonishing. The Filipino voice could travel farther than its passport. The BPO revolution began. Business process outsourcing became the new gold rush. Phones from New York to London to Sydney carried echoes of Manila. A customer in Texas calling about a credit card issue would speak to someone in Cebu. A patient in London scheduling a doctor's appointment would talk to someone in Davao. Each call trained another generation, neutral accents, fluent tones, empathy wrapped in clarity. Workers learned American idioms, British spellings, Australian slang. They studied time zones and holidays. They mastered the art of sounding local while being thousands of miles away. By 2010, the Philippines had overtaken India as the world's call center capital. By 2020, over 1.4 million Filipinos worked in global communication. Language had become an export, as valuable as any natural resource. The industry transformed entire cities: Ortigas Center, Bonifacio Global City, Eastwood City, Cebu IT Park. These districts glowed 24 hours a day, syncing with American mornings and European afternoons. Night shifts became normal. Coffee shops stayed open until dawn. Young graduates who once dreamed of migration found opportunity at home. Teachers became quality analysts. Nurses became team leaders. Engineers became account managers. The brain drain slowed. Salaries in BPO often exceeded those in traditional professions. A call center agent could earn more than a public school teacher. A team leader could afford a condo. An operations manager could send siblings to college. The economic impact was massive. BPO revenues reached over $26 billion annually. The sector employed more people than traditional manufacturing. It became the backbone of the middle class. But the transformation came with costs. The work was grueling. 8 hours of back-to-back calls, angry customers, impossible quotas. The night shifts disrupted health and family life. Workers aged prematurely from stress. And there was a cultural cost too. For every child perfecting English grammar, another forgot the lullabies of their grandmother. For every global job, a piece of local identity faded in translation. Young people spoke better English than their native language. They knew more about American geography than Philippine history. Critics warned of cultural erosion. Linguists documented the decline of regional languages. Educators debated whether English proficiency was worth losing linguistic diversity. Still, the nation kept speaking. Through typhoons that devastated call centers, through political upheavals, through economic downturns, through remittances sent home by nurses in London and engineers in Dubai and teachers in Saudi Arabia. The Philippines' greatest currency was not gold, nor oil, nor minerals. It was fluency. But the world was already shifting. Technology threatened to make human operators obsolete. AI began translating in real time. Chatbots handled simple queries. Voice recognition improved. Meanwhile, competitors emerged. China's education system invested billions in English instruction, making it mandatory from elementary school. Singapore strengthened its already excellent bilingual education. Vietnam and Indonesia ramped up English programs. India had scale. 1.4 billion people, many speaking English. But accent barriers persisted. American customers often complained they couldn't understand Indian agents. And yet, one country remained the most natural in tone, the most emotionally resonant, the most human in its English. The Philippines. Because English here wasn't foreign, it wasn't aspirational, it wasn't studied from textbooks alone, it was lived. Listen to a jeepney driver negotiate with a tourist, switching seamlessly between languages. A teacher explain quantum physics to our students using everyday examples. A YouTuber speak to millions with a cadence both global and intimate, neither fully Western nor fully Asian, but uniquely Filipino. A street vendor count change in English. A grandmother text her overseas grandchild in a mix of Tagalog and English. A politician deliver a speech that moves between languages mid-sentence without losing rhythm. Every sound is a bridge between East and West, tradition and ambition, local and global. The Filipino accent carries warmth. It rises and falls musically. It softens hard consonants. It adds personality where other accents add precision. And the world, slowly, was learning to appreciate it. The 2010s brought a new revolution, quieter but just as profound. Social media erased borders. A teenager in Zambales could reach an audience in Michigan. A comedian in Pampanga could trend in Toronto. Film content creators emerged, not imitating Western voices, but amplifying their own. They didn't hide their accents. They didn't code switch to sound American. They spoke English with Filipino flavor, and audiences loved it. YouTube channels grew into empires. Beauty vloggers, gamers, educators, storytellers. They built followings in the millions. Podcasters reached global audiences. Filipino English, warm, conversational, authentic, became a brand. International audiences didn't just tolerate the accent, they preferred it. Comment sections filled with praise. I love her accent. So soothing to listen to. Finally, someone who sounds real. Technology companies took notice. When Google expanded operations in Southeast Asia, they chose Manila as a hub. When Netflix needed customer support that felt human, they turned to Filipino teams. When Airbnb built their trust and safety operations, they hired Filipino moderators. When global e-learning platforms needed narrators for courses, Filipino voices topped the list. Clear enough for comprehension, warm enough for engagement, professional enough for credibility. The education system evolved in response. No longer was English taught in isolation from Filipino. The old either-or mentality, English for success, Filipino for identity, gave way to both and thinking. Bilingual education became the standard. The mother tongue-based multilingual education program launched in 2012, teaching children first in their native language before transitioning to Filipino and English. Code switching, moving fluidly between Tagalog and English, sometimes in the same sentence, wasn't seen as confusion, but as mastery. Linguists recognized it as a sophisticated linguistic skill, not a deficiency. Universities integrated global communication into every discipline. Medical students learned bedside manner in English and Filipino. They practiced explaining diagnoses to patients who might speak either or both languages. Engineering programs taught technical writing, emphasizing clarity over jargon. Architecture students presented to international panels. Business schools emphasized cross-cultural negotiation, teaching students to navigate between Filipino indirect communication and Western directness. Law schools produced graduates who could argue before international courts. Journalism schools trained correspondents for global networks. Film schools created directors who could pitch to Hollywood and Asia simultaneously. The result was a generation comfortable in both worlds. They could discuss Shakespeare and Jose Rizal. They could write grant proposals and spoken word poetry. They could code in Silicon Valley and organize barangay meetings.
They could negotiate contracts in Singapore and plan fiestas in their hometowns. They were neither fully Western nor fully Eastern, but something new, globally fluent while locally rooted. Meanwhile, competitors struggled with their own challenges. Singapore's English was flawless, but formal, sometimes lacking the warmth clients wanted. India's was widespread, but varied wildly by region. A call center in Bangalore sounded different from one in Mumbai or Kolkata. China's English was improving rapidly, but it remained largely academic. Students could pass exams, but struggled with conversational fluency and cultural nuance. South Korea and Japan invested heavily but faced structural resistance. Languages so different from English that fluency required immense effort. The Philippines had something none of them possessed: generations of lived experience. English wasn't a subject to master, it wasn't a foreign language learned in adulthood. It was a language to live in, to think in, to dream in. For millions of Filipinos, English wasn't their second language. It was their other first language. Manila glows like a network hub. Over 90 million Filipinos speak English with comfort, confidence, and cultural warmth. The skyline has transformed. Where there once were fields, there are now glass towers. Where there were fishing villages, there are now tech parks. The country has become the voice of the world. Multinational companies continue shifting training centers from Kuala Lumpur to Quezon City, from Bangkok to Cebu. The decision is simple. Filipino workers are skilled, English is excellent, and the cultural fit is natural. Digital freelancers from Davao to Iloilo fill Western time zones with fluent words and unwavering patience. They design websites, manage social media, write articles, edit videos, provide virtual assistants, all in English that rivals native speakers.
The numbers tell the story. The Philippines ranks first in Asia for business English proficiency, according to multiple international assessments. It leads the world in voice process outsourcing. Filipino teachers instruct students across 6 continents through online platforms. Filipino medical professionals work in hospitals from London to Los Angeles, their English medical training making them immediately effective. Filipino seafarers, over 200,000 of them, navigate international waters, their English allowing them to cruise ships of every nation. Filipino writers publish in international magazines. Filipino researchers present at global conferences. Filipino entrepreneurs pitch to Silicon Valley investors. Filipino diplomats negotiate at the United Nations. But the true measure isn't in statistics. It's in the seamless way English flows through daily life. In the jeepney, passengers switch between Tagalog and English mid-sentence. Bayad po! Can you pass my payment forward? Salamat! In the boardroom, presentations blend both languages without confusion. So ang strategy natin for Q4 is to focus on customer retention. In the home, parents speak Tagalog while children respond in English, and somehow everyone understands. In the market, vendors advertise in mixed language. Fresh fish, bago lang yan, bagong dating. Street signs appear in both languages. Government forms offer both options. Text messages mix both freely. The radio plays songs in English, Tagalog, and various combinations. Education reforms now teach English and Filipino in harmony, not rivalry. The goal is no longer imitation, it's balance. No longer assimilation, it's integration. The Filipino accent, once corrected, once seen as something to overcome, is now celebrated. Global brands prefer its tone, calm, kind, and trustworthy. It conveys competence without coldness, professionalism without pretension. Voiceover studios in Tokyo and San Francisco actively recruit Filipino narrators for global campaigns. Advertising agencies request that Filipino warmth. Podcast networks seek Filipino hosts for their approachable style. International media outlets hire Filipino correspondents, valuing their ability to explain complex Asian issues to Western audiences, and vice versa. Tech startups recruit Filipino community managers who can engage users across cultures. Publishing houses seek Filipino editors who understand both Asian and Western narrative structures. The entertainment industry has taken notice. Filipino actors appear in Hollywood productions, their English perfect and unaccented. Filipino directors helm international projects. Filipino writers create content for streaming platforms watched by millions. And crucially, this success hasn't come at the expense of Filipino languages. There's been a renaissance of local language content. Tagalog films compete at international festivals. Visayan literature wins prestigious awards. Indigenous languages are being documented and preserved. The Philippines has achieved what seemed impossible: to embrace English without rejecting identity, to speak globally while thinking locally, to compete internationally while staying rooted at home. The world has discovered what Filipinos always knew. Effective communication isn't about perfect grammar or native accents. It's about clarity, empathy, and connection. And in these qualities, the Philippines excels. When a Filipino nurse explains a diagnosis to a worried patient, she does it with compassion. When a Filipino teacher conducts an online lesson, he does it with patience. When a Filipino customer service agent handles a complaint, she does it with genuine care. This is the Filipino advantage, not just fluency, but humanity. Language has always been more than words. It's memory, it's aspiration, it's the echo of who we once were and who we hope to become. The journey wasn't simple. It carried the weight of colonization, the struggle of identity, the tension between preservation and progress. It involved sacrifice, adaptation, resilience. But through it all, the Philippines found a way to hold two truths at once: to speak globally while thinking locally, to master English without losing Filipino, to communicate with the world without forgetting home. From the first bamboo classroom to today's digital skyline, the Philippines has turned sound into strength, accent into art, and speech into connection. The ocean doesn't speak here, it remembers. And in its remembering, it carries a quiet truth, that the most powerful language isn't the one most spoken, but the one most understood. Today, as the sun sets over Manila Bay, millions of voices rise in English, but they rise with something uniquely Filipino: warmth, resilience, and an unshakable belief that language is not a barrier, but a bridge. In 2025, the Philippines doesn't just speak English, it speaks connection. It speaks opportunity. It speaks hope. It speaks with the voices of 7,000 islands, united by one truth, that to communicate is to understand, and to understand is to belong. And the world is listening.